There we go.
Hello, one and all. Welcome to CyberQP's July 30th product update webinar. How's everyone doing?
Let's see. Is the chat open for these wonderful attendees, Daniel?
Double checking that now. Let me see here. Chat should be open.
Awesome. Feel free to let us know where you're calling in from. I'm currently here, Robbie. You sent that to the Daniel. Can you allow hosts and panelists to chat with everyone?
Yep. There we go. Chat should be open now.
There we are. Yes. So I'm calling in from Atlanta, downtown Atlanta today. I'm at the CompTIA show. Anyone else by chance on this webinar also attending the CompTIA show in Atlanta? Any MSPs here?
From some folks from Utah, from Tennessee, Northern Virginia. Feel like Roger's closest to you out of all of them, Jared.
Waiting for a thunderstorm.
We go one from Canada.
Let's go, Canada. For those of you who may not know, CyberQP is a proud Vancouver native team, I think.
Yeah, well, we have offices and people all over now. Yeah, but the it started out of Vancouver. Let's put it that way.
Awesome. I think we've given these folks enough time to kind of file in. We are still searching for our other panelists. We have a panelist on the loose. So when we, pull up our panelist slide, Neil is with a partner on a call right now. But we can kind of jump into the content. I think Robbie's more than capable of showing everyone how our product can empower your technicians. If you want to share this, get us started.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. And okay. So so those of you who are joining us for the first time, we do this periodically, try to do it quarterly, where we come online and share the things we have released. And usually we have our existing partners join, sometimes some of our prospects also join. So I try to keep it a bit open-ended and also try to give some background so everyone kind of understand what we're talking about. So in and this time, yeah, I'll introduce myself. As I said, we're just waiting for Neil. He will join shortly. So my name's Robbie. I lead the product team at CyberQP. I work design team also reports to me. So I work closely with our engineering, marketing, basically all the cross-functional teams to prioritize the right features, design, develop them, and launch them. Another big part of our job is to keep close to our partners and understand what are the problems they're running into and what we should be focusing on. And Neil, who will be joining us shortly, is also a product owner, is on the product team. And basically we do the same thing as I do. Okay, what we're going to cover today. So we've categorized into two things. So just-in-time account enhancements. There I'll give you an overview of those and do a demo of those enhancements. And we've also implemented some great access controls. So it's especially useful for administrators of CyberQP and how they set up CyberQP and set up access. So we have two main things released over the last few months was global folders and customer groups. Customer groups actually got released this week, so that's brand new, and we'll show you a demo for that too. And I'll then give you a peek into what's coming, what's on the horizon. And QA, we kept it at the end, but if you have any questions as we're going through, just put it in the chat. Daniel, feel free to pause in between, and we can answer those. Okay, I see Neil just joining. So if you put it in the chat, they'll be able to answer it right in the chat, but I could also pause. Okay, so let's start with the just-in-time accounts. I think before we go in there is trying to understand, for some of you who are not CyberQP partners yet, what is CyberQP? What do we do? And how do we help? So we created this risk profile for your privileged accounts. And on one side, it'll be very high risk. That would be something like always on shared admin accounts that are reused, and at worst, a same password used across all. It's convenient, but it's very high risk. And especially it's a lot of burden when a technician leaves and joins again. But then as you start improving your security posture, you may have unique passwords per account. And then as you keep progressing, you try to have unique accounts per technician so you're not sharing them, and so on and so forth. Where CyberQP comes in here is giving you, our first product was around password rotations. So giving you moving target defense. It's still very popular. Usually, primary reason people come to us is to rotate their shared admin accounts. And even further, the product I'm going to show you today is just-in-time access, which gives you even more security with zero standing privileges. So I'll explain, I'll do a demo of how exactly those works. But the last two are QGuard product, password rotations, and the just-in-time accounts at the very end. I'll quickly go over this one. So what are Jade accounts? So they give you zero standing privileges. And essentially how they work are they're activated for a specific time. And then after the time expires, the privileges are revoked and the passwords rotated, the accounts disabled. So there's always a reason, three things involved here. There's always a reason for access. There's always a time frame involved. And especially with what I'm going to show you today, you can follow least privileges where you can only have privileges that are required for that specific task or for that specific user, and you're avoiding using global admins, domain admins for all tasks. Okay, so what's new? Briefly talk about that, and then I'll go into a demo to show you how it works. So now we released just-in-time access policies. So what they mean is for each directory, so we work with Active Directory, M365, and of course local accounts. So you could define unique policies that give your technicians various level of access to these directories. You can set it by the various directories, assign the privileges and the access group. And what this helps you achieve is you could have one tier of techs who are global admins and another tier that could be a help desk manager or other, and they don't necessarily need global admin privileges. I think I'll go over the demo. I think that'll be far more interesting. And then I'll continue to talk about how things work. Any questions so far? If you feel free in the chat, and I'll go over those. So I'm signed in to one of the demo accounts. This is on production, so same as what you would get. If I go to the settings and if I scroll down here, I have just-in-time accounts enabled here. And you would notice I already have 4 policies. 2 for Active Directory, 1 for Office, 1 for local. And you could see what are the privileges that are available with each policy and what technician groups have access to those. So you can see primary and super, so those are admins of CyberQP. They have access to global admins, whereas some other security groups have access to different privileges. And from here, I could now create a new policy, say M365 policy. I want to name it Help Desk Managers. Next, I can select the different groups who can access this policy. So let's select a few here. What this does is when they go to use the JIT accounts, this policy would be available to them. Next, we have duration options. So this means how long the JIT accounts, how long they can enable the JIT account for. So we maybe don't want the longer durations, and we want them to stick to 1 hour or say optionally 4-hour privileged sessions. So you as an admin could define that. And from here, I can search for the privileges and start assigning them. Let's search a few ones. So knowledge administrator, help desk manager. So once I've selected all that, that's all needed for the policy. I can save it. And you would notice a new policy appears for M365. What are the privileges and what are the technicians? Now let's go use this policy to enable a JIT account. So if I go to one of the customers here, go to JIT accounts. Now notice I'm logged in as a primary. So I see just-in-time accounts created by all my technicians, but I don't have access to their passwords. I cannot enable those accounts. I could still see them and I could delete them. So it's more for auditing purposes. But I do have these 3 accounts here that belong to me. I created those, so I can access those. So let's try to enable this M365 account. So the way policies now would work is, wait, I think there's some issue there. Let's go back. Okay, so the way earlier they were working, when you enable JIT account, whatever privileges it was created with, you always have the same privileges. So yeah, if I had created one with global administrators, every time you enable it, it's going to assign those privileges. And that was the same privileges available to every technician. Now we have policies here. So since I'm an admin, I have access to both policies. But if a technician group that I assigned logged in, they would only get the help desk manager. So from here, you will also notice the duration options we configured 1 hour. So if I select these privileges, I can add a reference to the ticket number for logging, and I could activate this JIT account. So now what happened in the background was the account was activated. These 3 privileges were assigned to that account. You got a new password. So now you can go log in with this account and it would expire within 1 hour. And the next time you need it, you could re-enable it with the same policy, or if you want to access as a global admin, you can choose that policy and go ahead. So very similarly, it works for Active Directory too, where you could have different privileges assigned. Now, one good thing about one big change we also made is now all security groups that are defined in the policy get assigned to the just-in-time account. So the benefit is now you could choose a combination of 3 or 4 lower tiered privileges, and they combined will give that person enough access to do the things. And you can again move away from global admins. Next, I'm going to show you how these enhancements work on the QTech app. So this is our technician app. As you noticed, as I opened, it did a biometrics check, so I don't need to log in every day. And I have the same accounts available here. So the 3 accounts I had, I could access them from here. And similarly, if I go to enable the JIT account, I have the same policies available to me. So the new changes are available on the dashboard. The QTech app is updated. And if you were using our Windows app to use JIT accounts, that will also support the policies now. So I think that's some other cool things that are not available on the dashboard. You could early disable this JIT account if you want. If you're done with the work, you could disable it. And if you're running out of time and you want 1 more hour, you could also increase the time and select a new duration. So it's pretty handy there. Okay, last I want to show you the passwordless. It's not new, but it also works with the policy work we have done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable a JIT account here. And I also have this Screen Connect session. So passwordless gives a lot of convenience over JIT accounts. So JIT accounts, you need to go to the dashboard, you need to enable them to use them. They're very secure, but it could be time consuming sometimes. What passwordless does is abstract all the complexity but still give you all the benefits that you get with the just-in-time accounts. So once you enable that, you go to the technician sign in. So this option appears. We have also released a feature recently to allow you to choose which customers you want to use this passwordless options with. So you're not required to enable it for everyone. You could choose it to use it with select customers. And all I do here is I type in my email. So this is the same email I type in on all my customer machines. So I don't need to worry about the username even. And as I typed in send the request, you'll notice on the QTech app on the side, a push notification came in. It's requesting a passwordless login. And yeah, from here, all I do is I type in the number that I see on the screen. You notice it's going to use my AD account there, and I hit approve. So my JIT account is enabled in the background. The privileges are assigned based on the policy that we talked about, and you get logged into the machine. Of course, after 1 hour or 48 minutes here, my account would be disabled, the privileges would be removed. And as I said, if you finish early, you could also disable it here. And the nice thing is it also logs you out of your sessions. So that's all with the policies. Give it a try. And if you have any feedback, submit. I do read each and every feedback that comes in, and we've been using that to prioritize the roadmap for just-in-time accounts.
Actually, I think we just got a question in the Q&A from Michael. How do most partners handle JIT/passwordless login with Duo?
Yeah, so we have so all you need to do is you need to whitelist our credential provider. So we have a KB article. Neil, if you could post a link in the chat there. So one aspect would be technically how that works. So you'll need to whitelist the credential provider. Second is with the license cost. You probably don't want to pay for 2 products to get the same benefits. So what we recommend is once you enable passwordless option, this is MFA. Since you're using the biometrics and the credentials. So you would you can use this and not necessarily need another license for Duo. We have a KB article. I think it blocks by default, but we have some instructions on how to whitelist.
Amazing. I think that was the last question. And we'll turn it over to the next part of the agenda.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing and Neil, I'll let you talk about the access controls.
Hi, everyone. It's Neil over at CyberQP. So I'm going to be talking about the enhanced access controls. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and my second display. And looks like it's sharing right now. So we've made a bunch of changes in the access control world in CyberQP. The first thing that we've done recently, this one actually might be a repeat, is we've added global folders to manage accounts in CyberQP. So what this does for you is it gives you centralized management of your accounts that are located in multiple customers. You can create folders and manage them at the tenant settings in CyberQP, streamlining your operations and your access model that you want to create in a standardized way. We also have automation that's involved with these folders. Every newly created folder that you add in the tenant settings will automatically be created inside of the customers. So with these folders, you won't have to jump into every customer, create a new folder, then jump into another customer, create the same folder, and apply the permissions that you already did at the former customer. With this global folders, you'll be able to set it once at the tenant level and have it propagate to all your customers. And with these folders, you can set bulk permissions for accounts or passwords that are in that folder, and it will be enforced in an ongoing manner. So once these folders are created and they exist in a customer, when you decide to move objects into those folders, they'll automatically fold in and retrieve and set themselves to the permissions that you set at the tenant level. So in the screenshots that I have going on in the right-hand side, the top screenshot is just showing a example of the tenant settings. And this is accessible to the primary and super of CyberQP. They can create a bunch of folders. As you can see, there's an example for accountants and administrators and so on. And in the bottom two screenshots, I have one customer on the left-hand side, Acme Corp, and on the bottom right, I have Robbie Company. If you take a look at the sidebars in those two screenshots, you'll see that the same folders are appearing in both places, and that's because they've been set at the tenant level. So there's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained by using these global folders and a lot of time savings to be had here. So I'll move on to the next slide here. So I have a little video recording and I'll go ahead and play this. So with this first screen that you're seeing, I have already a couple folders inside of a customer, but let's say I want to add a new folder to show up for all my downstream customers. What I'll do is I'll move up to my tenant settings and I'll scroll down to a section that's called Global Password Folders. I'll then click the Manage Global Folders button, and I'm presented with a view with all my existing folders that exist at all my customers. And on the top right, I'll go ahead and click New Folder. And in this drop-down menu, whoops, I was afraid this was going to happen. Sorry, let me jump back to that spot here in the video. All right, let me just get back to that spot here. We lost it here in the video. All righty, it's gonna take a moment here. Bear with me. All right, so let's go back a little bit here. So we're going back to Manage Global Folders. We'll click New Folder, and I'm gonna pause here because I want to show you that when you click new folder, you have the option to make it display in the end users, admin accounts, or service account section. And if your CyberQP has the technician vault, you'll also be able to create a folder for those standalone passwords, say your DNS passwords or your passwords for Google or other applications. So here I'm creating a new one for end user accounts. Go ahead and give that a click. Give it a name that will make sense for every customer that'll show up in. And I'll also click on this button for add edit groups. What this lets you do is set a technician group that will have access to this folder, and our automation will kick in and only grant the people that are a member of that technician group access to the accounts that are inside that folder. So this is the part that I was saying how you don't have to jump into every customer to recreate the same folder. So this is setting access permissions for these folders. And I have one in here, I believe, called Level 3 Technicians. I'll go ahead and hit save or select, and then I'll save this folder. Now I'll go back to the customer and give a page a refresh. And you can see here on the bottom left, I'll have that West Coast support folder show up immediately. And it's empty right now because I haven't moved any accounts in here or created anything in this folder. And what I'd like to do is also show you a different login, an engineer in an incognito window, and show you how the segmentation works. So this engineer right now does not have access to this folder. So if we take a look on the left-hand side, you'll see that there's no indication of a folder, nor do I see some other accounts, which is actually already being hidden away from this engineer. So that's an example of segmentation. And now I'm going to show an example of moving an existing account into one of these folders. So I've just clicked the move to folder option, and I get a little pop-up that shows you that I can move that object. And I'll select West Coast support and then move that into there. And now that object will show up in West Coast support. And in that engineer who's been hidden away from things, you'll also see that account disappear. So the changes are immediate and they happen right away. And if the engineer or the technician doesn't have access to the folder, they won't see it. And if they don't have access to the account, they also won't see it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is, let's say this engineer starts to do some actions that require the usage of accessing that account, and they do need it. As a primary super, I can make changes to grant that account to that person. So in the next video, I'll show you an example of granting access to that account by using a technician group. So here, I don't have that account. I'll move up to my technician groups that I have located in my tenant settings, and I'll say, hey, I need to add this engineer to that login group. So I'll edit the login group and I'll add that technician in. So here I'm editing the technician group, adding that engineer, hitting save, and back in my incognito window with that engineer, I'll reload, and now I'll have access to that folder and the accounts that are located in that folder. So I'll pause there and open the floor for any questions.
One of the things I want to add is one use case is we've got requests where for end users, some of you want to segregate or separate the executive team accounts or CEO account and not have that available to every help desk technician. So that way you could create a new folder, put the executive team in there, and have only maybe a specific technician group or higher tier one support those accounts. And then all the other end user accounts could be serviced by anyone. And for admin accounts, you could have a break glass account folder where you could put all your break glass accounts that are only available to the admin, that are not your day-to-day use accounts. And again, you could have other accounts that are used on a day-to-day basis. So this gives you flexibility to organize, and of course we go back to improving the security. Yeah, I think we can jump to the
Yes.
next item, and then we'll, at the end, if we have time, can take
Yeah.
questions.
Okay, cool. So the next thing I want to discuss is customer groups. So we've just recently added a new feature to CyberQP called customer groups. Customer groups allow group-based access control to customers in your CyberQP tenant. It facilitates the organization of customers based on predefined criteria, which is what technician groups do you already have in your CyberQP and who are in there. So most of our tenants, they already have technician groups that they're using. For example, you have to use them, you can use them in just-in-time policies, and it's already an existing access model to group together groups of technicians. So our tenants usually have level 1, level 2, level 3 groups, or maybe they have a special technician group that just groups together some technicians who have more knowledge and actually have access to a lot of customers. We've gotten a lot of feedback saying that when you're adding a new technician or modifying a technician to include or remove customers, it was a tedious process. So to help alleviate that problem, we've decided to create a concept of customer groups where you'll be able to load up a bunch of customers into a customer group and then link those customer groups to your existing technician groups. So by doing that, it will help propagate customers to your technicians without having you to edit individually every single technician that you have in your tenant. So we will help you make good decisions on how to group your customers with using the customer groups, because we have a view that will show you all the customers are nested into a customer group, and it'll help you with your long-term strategy of growth by helping you segment your customers, which you may already have done in other products outside of CyberQP. And you can achieve customer segmentation by grouping them maybe by region or service level agreement or any other criteria. So I'll move on to a brief video showing how this customer groups work. So I have an incognito window here with an engineer that has access to no customers. And I'm going to show you an example of creating a customer group that only grants access to one customer, and that's going to be my internal MSP. I'll create a new customer group and I'll drop in my internal customer and then assign it to the technician group that this engineer is a part of. So I'll go ahead and I'll show you this now. So again, this is the engineer that has no customers. I'm going to actually slow this down. I'll show you how you can create a new customer group and give it a name. And I'm calling this one internal customer only for now. And I'll click add edit customer, and I'm going to actually search for my internal customer, which I'm simulating here as my internal MSP customer. And that is going to be Robbie Company. I'll hit select. And I've also marked off this check mark that says automatically add new customers created. This is a method where later in the future, if I get new customers that come through being created by hand or with an automatic import from an integration, it will automatically be added to this customer group. So this is an optional check mark. I didn't have to click it, but I just wanted to show you an example of some automation that we have. Later on, we'll see a customer being added dynamically to this group. The next section we have here is choosing the technician groups. So again, here, I'm going to select my level 3 technician group that I have on the system that has that engineer folded in there. And at the bottom of this user interface, you can see the name of the technician group that I already have on the platform, as well as all the members. So you can get a snippet to see who is going to be granted access to these customers. Okay, and I see my engineer in there. I'll go ahead and click save. And back on this list view, we'll see that I have that new internal customers, that internal customer only group. And I'll go back to my incognito window and I'll go ahead and refresh the page there. Alrighty, and there it is. Okay, so for completion's sake, I did have some more footage here of adding a new customer group and adding some customers by hand and then applying it to the engineer here. But I can definitely put a pin on it because it's a little bit repetitive, and I'll move on to the next slide. But essentially, these customer groups will help you effectively group together sections of customers, drop them into the group, and assign it to your technicians that don't have full customer access. And if I want to remove customers, I'll just have to go to one spot there in the customer groups, edit the group, and remove the customer. And again, you will no longer have to do this on a technician by technician, individual technician by technician basis.
And I would
So I'll
add
pause
that
there.
the
Mhm.
one big use case was that I want my tech to have access to all customers, but not that one that's my internal customer. Um, it was very painful to do that in the old system where you could set it up, you can check every customer, but leave out your internal one, but it was not adding any new customer that you onboard. So you'll have to go back for each technician, check the box for that new customer. But with this one, you could have one group called every customer except the internal one, where you could have all selected except your one. Can also have the checkbox to add automatically the new ones. So it becomes super easy. And then if a new tech joins, all you need to do is add them to that group and they get access to the right folders. They get access to the right customer groups. They get access to the right just-in-time policies. So everything is based on the technician group. So all you really need to do is uh, organize them one time and then just add and remove technicians.
Yes, excellent. Thanks, Robbie. With my next two slides, we've had this for a while. It's the API for deployment. So in our knowledge base, you can check out our article Getting Started with the CyberQP API. And what that does is it will tell you how to get your API key and also grab our Swagger documentation or JSON file and add that into a tool of your choice, such as Postman, to retrieve things such as your customer names, customer IDs, installation tokens, and even seat counts quantity amounts for your end user account, admin accounts, etc. So I won't go through every one of these bullet points and bore you here, but it will help you reduce the steps needed to deploy the agent and also retrieve some numbers on the usage and the amount of accounts that you have inside of your customers. And again, in our CyberQP KB, there is a link in there where you can retrieve our API documentation, our Open API, and Swagger docs. So if you have Postman, you can definitely grab that URL, use Postman's importing feature that's built in there, and just paste that URL right into there. And that's how you'll be able to automatically grab all the endpoints that we currently have supported with our API. Yeah, you'll see me dig in here to grab all the endpoints. So yeah, I'll move on to the next slide here. Another question that we've gotten a couple times actually is how to get the actual CyberQP API key. So on this slide, I want to show that also in our KB, there's another URL that you'll want to grab. And if you're signed into your CyberQP dashboard, you'll be able to take that URL and simply paste it into your browser, maybe in a new tab, and will give you your key. So here's an example of copying the URL and then pasting it. You'll get a pop-up that asks if you want CyberQP to access your data, and that's because we want you to confirm if you want to actually generate an API key. And then you'll get your API key actually on screen after you confirm this. So this plus the Swagger doc will give you the fastest way to get access to your data. And you can take a look at what endpoints we have in there and see how we can streamline your agent installation process, as well as fetch some numbers from your customers. And here's a screenshot. I have it redacted here, but that's the screen that you'll get after you confirm that pop-up. Okay, so what's coming next? Robbie, do you want me to hand this one back to you?
Yeah, you can share. Maybe if you go to next screen, I can quickly share.
Yes.
So
All
we've been working on our Halo PSA integration. First version of that's coming out in next couple of weeks, which will allow you to do identity verification. Now, if you're not using Halo, this is still, we're rebuilding our PSA integration. So that will be improving or adding a lot of functionality, especially around syncing of information between the PSA and R. We're implementing that new approach with Halo PSA, and we plan to, right after this one, redo our ConnectWise manage integration and eventually also the Dado Autotask integration. So we're solving a lot of problems, adding a lot of features with this. First starting with Halo and then taking the same approach over to the other PSAs. And next, other thing we're working on, we're redesigning our self-serve mobile app. So this is the self-serve app for end users that they can use to reset their passwords. So you get less tickets. They can also unlock their account. We have that in the App Store for iOS, Android, web. We're redesigning that. We're adding more authentication options, as that was one of the things we got most feedback on. Currently, the app relies on having a mobile phone number to get the temporary password to log in. So we'll be adding other authentication options like your work email or a secondary email to log you in. So that's a big project. I'm hoping we'll be able to show some of the progress in our next product webinar. And finally, we are also working on Jira enhancements. So specifically supporting non-English domain. So right now we're aware of some issues if your workstation or domain is not set up in English. Again, it doesn't apply to everyone, but for those who are using domains in French or other languages, they're running into some problems or need to use some workaround. So we're fixing that. And we're also working on supporting custom security groups. So right now, the demo I showed supports all the built-in security groups. And with this new release, we'll be supporting any custom security groups or roles you've created within M365 or AD. So those are some of the things. Yeah, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. And if you have any feedback, you can also share here. Other than that, our email is, you can send it to support@cyberqp.com or product@cyberqp.com. As I said, we read each email that comes in.
All righty. We'll open it up to the floor for questions. And I see Jared has come off mute.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if Rob was going to transition to the last book and demo slide, but if there's any, current partners on, feel free to also scan this QR code or click the link in the chat, have a meeting with your channel account manager. You can learn how to implement some of these new features and use these new features that we just showed you here. And of course, for any new prospects on the call, we are going to offer 10% off of our solutions. So yeah, feel free to scan the QR code.
And as we always say, we definitely cleaned this one, so you're totally safe. All righty. I think that we're all wrapped up here. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the resources in the chat or reach out to your CAM. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.